The Duke of Cornwall Hotel is a hotel in the city of Plymouth, Devon, England. Built in Victorian Gothic style, it opened in 1865 to cater for the increasing number of travellers who were coming to the region by rail and sea. The hotel survived the World War II Plymouth Blitz without damage, and was the venue for regular functions throughout the war, even though the family that ran it were members of the fascist party and were removed from the city in 1944. In the 1970s and early 1980s it was threatened with closure, but, helped by poet laureate John Betjeman's praise for its architecture, it was saved by a major refurbishment. Today it is considered to be one of Plymouth's principal landmarks. History. The first steam train arrived at Plymouth Millbay railway station on the 2nd of April 1849. The increase of first-class travel to the area led to an increasing demand for luxury accommodation, and once the need for a quality hotel was recognized, a group of railway directors were appointed as the hotel's board of directors. They selected the architect C. Forster Hayward, who later designed the suite for Sir in Aberystwyth to the same style but on a smaller scale. The builders were honest John Betjeman and Benjamin Call, who had already completed several jobs for the South Devon Railway Company, including the rebuilding of Exeter St Thomas Railway Station and Newton Abbot and a hotel in Old Town Street of the city. Construction started in 1863 and the hotel opened in 1865. 5 different types of stone were used to create the building in Victorian Gothic style. Owned by the Plymouth Hotel Company, the Duke of Cornwall cost £40,000 to develop, including the excavation work required to clear the site where the Saracen's Head Public House and Millbay Grove Terrace once stood. The 1920s. In the 1920s, long-distance road travel was becoming a viable option, and during the same period the number of ocean liner visits to Plymouth had doubled from 350 to 700 a year. Plymouth's location was attractive as it could cut a whole day in getting back to London by train rather than being routed through Southampton. With this spare day, the people were looking for accommodation, and due to this increase in passing trade, the hotel went through a thorough program of reconstruction and redecoration. Its lighting was electrified, a lift was installed, and the sanitary arrangements were certified by the local authority. The 1930s. During the 1930s, Millbay Dock grew in popularity due to its ocean-going status. In this period, many celebrities visited Plymouth, including Walt Disney, Charlie Chaplin, Duke Ellington and Bing Crosby. The number of liner visits peaked during the 1930s, and the city looked to promote itself as a tourist destination. 1934 saw the memorial for the Mayflower Steps officially open. This was to promote the Pilgrim Fathers' link with America. The following year, that inside Lido opened on the Ho. World War II. On the 6th of July 1940, the first air raid of the Plymouth Blitz took place, and local people were aware of the city of Plymouth's importance to the enemy. With the large HMNB Devonport naval base nearby, it was inevitable that this base would soon become a target. Over the next 4 years there were 59 separate assaults on the city. Thousands of homes and businesses were destroyed during that time, making Plymouth one of the most bombed cities in the country. Despite the bombing, the Duke of Cornwall Hotel survived relatively unscathed. Unlike the St James the Less Church and the Millbay railway station, which stood either side of the hotel, thanks to this, dances took place in the ballroom every Wednesday and Saturday nights. They proved to be a welcome break from the pressure and fear that had become part of everyone's lives. American troops and local people alike attended these functions, and wedding receptions were also held in the hotel. Guests were entertained by the likes of Ann Ziegler and Webster Booth and other artists who were staying at the hotel whilst playing at the nearby Palace Theatre on Union Street. According to the intelligence records of the MI5 and Home Office reports, the Welsh family that ran the hotel during the war had strong ties to the fascist party and was suspected by MI5 of gathering military intelligence from naval personnel. In particular, the manager's daughter-in-law was accused of taking American servicemen to her bedroom where she would coax sensitive military information from them after entertaining them. On the 10th of February 1944, Mrs. Welsh and her daughter-in-law Bebe were placed on the suspects list. In March, she and her husband had a restriction order which prohibited the presence in an aliens protected area. They had been watched from at least 1939, but it was not until 1944 that they were forced to leave before the Allied invasion of France in the spring of 1944. MI5 recommended the detention. Famous guests. In August 1914, Ernest Shackleton stayed in the hotel the night before his Imperial Trans-Antarctic expedition. Other names in the visitors' book include Tommy Trinder, Anne Ziegler and Webster Booth. In 1954, Laurel and Hardy were due to perform in the Palace Theatre on the 17th of May, but were forced to cancel the show due to Oliver Hardy suffering from flu and a mild heart attack. Due to the train station opposite, the hotel benefited from various other celebrities including Charlie Chaplin, who would take the train from London then sail back to New York from the docks at Mill Bay. More recently, Suzi Quatro, Hale and Pace, Cameron McIntosh, Lionel Blair, Alan Clark and Dame Janet Fuchs all have their names signed in the visitors' book. Threat of closure and refurbishment. The building was listed as Grade 2 in 1975, despite which it faced threats of closure in 1977. A local newspaper article read, Plymouth's 114-year-old Duke of Cornwall Hotel, which kept the tourism flag flying in Queen Victoria's days and defied the wrath of Hitler's bombs, is in danger of being pulled down. This was due to the lack of car parking space. The terraced gardens gave way to a new car park in 1988. In 1987, another article reported Plymouth's last grand Victorian hotel is up for sale. The hotel was described by Sir John Betjeman as one of the finest examples of Victorian Gothic architecture he had ever seen, and in 1988 its future was secured. A refurbishment program affecting almost every area of the building was completed. The ballroom was completely refurbished in 1994 and the old Spider's Web bar converted to a new function suite, the Fleur de Lis suite. Facilities and accreditations. The Duke of Cornwall has 72 rooms and suites, including the Tower Room that gives a 270-degree view of the city, coast and countryside. The hotel is regularly used as a venue for weddings, conferences and various functions. It is within walking distance of shopping streets, Theatre Royal, Plymouth University and Plymouth Pavilions, as well as popular historical sites including the Hoe, Barbican, Mayflower Steps and Plymouth Gin Distillery. Today the Duke of Cornwall remains one of Plymouth's most famous landmarks. Its restaurant dining room has been described by Fromers as one of the finest in the area and describes the setting as elegant. The hotel has 3 stars and 1 red rosette from the AA.